Hi, welcome to the Modern Application Development 2 screencast. In this screencast, we will learn how to set up and run Hello World Vue application. It's an introduction, a screencast. We will learn the basics of Vue. For this, you will need an editor like VS-ODM or Sublime Text or gedit. I'm going to use Sublime Text here. You can use whichever you like. A browser or either Firefox or Chrome, and Vue Devtools. I'll show you what Vue Devtools is, and we need to install and enable it. Vue is a JavaScript framework that we are going to use. Before we begin to use, we need to install Vue Devtools, that we're going to use it as and when we do some debugging. It's a Chrome add-on or a Firefox add-on. You can go to devtools.vuejs.org and install it. You can click on this Google Chrome extension, or if you're using Firefox, you can click on Firefox extension and click and install them. I'm not going to install it here. Since I'm running Firefox, I could have installed here, but I've already installed it. So if you go to your settings, your extensions and themes, you can see your Vue Devtools is installed. Since I'm using in private window, I'm also enabled run in private window, right? So now Vue Devtools is installed. How do you check it's enabled? Just right click on any HTML and go to inspect. You should be able to see Vue tab in the developer tools here, like this. So this is the one that gets enabled after installing that add-on, and this will be helpful for us to debug, when we'll use it throughout. Right, now that we are done with the setup, we'll go back to our application. We're going to create a very simple application. So I have pre-created an HTML called application.html, which we're going to use. And let's say create an HTML, simple HTML. Right, this is our simple HTML. I'll just call it hello world. Right, and here let's add a div and add hello world. Right, this is the simplest app that we could do. I'm opening it locally, so I can just refresh and see my hello world here. Right, that's the message I want to display. Right, now I want to do some more improvement. I'll just add another file called application.js, where we'll write all our application. Right, so and then I'm going to include that at the bottom. Once the whole page is loaded, I'm going to include that. Right, and src is equal to application.js. This is just simple inclusion of JavaScript file inside our HTML. Now let's say if we didn't want to say this here, I wanted to say this here. Let's say message was here, right, and we wanted to display here. There were two options. For example, on loading, we could get the reference to the div, and we can set in our HTML. Let's say div had an ID called app, right? Then we could do document dot get element by ID. ID is app dot inner HTML is equal to message. Right, I think this should work. Right, we are setting it. Now there are better ways to do it. This is very rudimentary JavaScript way of doing it, and it's very limited to, here we are just showing a simple message, and hence it's okay. It works. But if you're going to do a complete application within this, our app div, suddenly this becomes unmanageable. That's where we are going to use Vue.js. Vue.js has a way to do this. So let's start with the including Vue.js. So we're going to use Vue.js 2. So let's get started. There are two variations of Vue.js. One is Vue.js 2 and Vue.js 3, and Vue.js 2 is the most used currently. So we're going to use it. With little changes, we could use Vue.js 3 as well. But in this course, we're going to use Vue.js 2. We're going to click on Get Started, and and here there's a script, which is a development version. It just has more logs and console logs, so you can debug easier. So I'm going to include this. If you're going to do production, then you can use like a minimized, optimized version here. But I'm going to use this one. I'm just going to copy this. I'm just going to include that here, right? Just going to remove this comment. Okay. Now we have done this. I'm going to remove this, right? We have done this. Now we want to use Vue to set up the message here. Let's do that. That's done by adding a Vue app, which is the instance of our Vue, right? Let's do that first. Let's create an app called app, and we'll instantiate a new Vue class. Now Vue takes optional parameters, and the two most important ones are called element, which is denoted by EL, which takes the ID of our app for which we want to refer. ID of our app, right? That's hash app. And then the next one takes data, which is the data that we are going to use in the app, right? And we want to use message here, and our message wants to be hello world, right? I'm going to remove that here as a single thing. We are going to use it as a data here, right? Now if I load, it's still not showing up. That's because even though we have associated EL or element to our application HTML's div app here, we are still not somehow told this HTML that you need to use this attribute from the view to show the message. That's by done by adding an expression. This is similar to templates, right? You can just add message here, and then what now we are telling is, this ID app is attached to this view using this element hash app, and then the message expression comes from the data of the view using this message attribute inside the data, right? Now I'm going to save this and run it, and let's see what happens. Voila, you can see hello world here. Now the most interesting part of the view is not this, right? The most interesting part of the view is when you actually do inspect and you go to the view, it shows your root element. Root element is this view object, which is what is associated with our root div, right? This is our root, right? And this is an instance of the view object, view class. This is the root. Now you can see here root, and it has data, as you can see, and it has message hello world. Now let me show you something very interesting. I can go to console. I can see we have an app object, right? App dot message is equal to hello Thejesh. Now let me run this JavaScript. Now you can see quickly the value of this changed, and you can also see the value here changed. If you go to view, you can also this value here changed, or you can click here. I mean, this is the advantage of having a view add-on that will give you access to view related things, including components, attributes, events, etc. Direct access. Now here you can do Hari, and if I save, it changes. Now this is what we call reactivity. Here, the view is being reactive. It looks for the values in this, and as soon as this value of the message changes here, it reacts to that and goes and updates this. Right? You can see that instantly happening. Now if I refresh it, it goes back to the original status of the message, which is this. But as soon as I update it, click on root, click on this, click on page, I just have to update the value of the status or data, and the UI gets reflected automatically. I don't have to do any changes to the UI. This is the most important part of using Vue, which is being reactive. Now let's do some more improvements to it. Let's say when we do someone comes here and looks at hello Tej or some other message, hello world, they want to say hello back, right? So let's add some button for them to say hi to us. All right, it's a simple thing. We'll just go back here. Let's put this inside a P. It shouldn't matter, and let's /P. It'll still work, so you can still works. I'm just going to make this as capital letters, hello world, to make it cleaner. Right, and now I'm going to add within our app, I'm going to add a button. Right, button is our standard button. Right, now let's say hi. So if I go back here and refresh, you can see there's a button here, and you're clicking say hi, and it's not doing anything. Now for it to act, we need to introduce event handler. So on certain event on this button, we need to be able to do something. Usually you will do it by doing on click, right? That's what we learned in our previous session. We do associate events directly. Now as you know, we need to add a event handler. That's done by adding v on in Vue, and this is after this v on, you actually give the event name which we want to handle, which is click. And what do we want to do? What is the event handler? Let's say we want to do say hi, right? And if I go refresh here and say hi, it throws an error because there is no say hi defined. So let's define this say hi. Like data, the Vue object here can also have a methods attribute, right? We can define methods, and then we can define our method called say hi, right? Let's do methods. Okay, and we'll define our first method called say hi, right? Say hi is equal to function. I'm going to create an anonymous function. Right, now I'm just going to update this same message to say said hello back, right? So for example, we can do message is equal to hi, right? When say hi, I'm just doing say hi. Now we still don't know where this message is. How do we refer this message? Since the message is from the same object, we're going to do this dot message, right? And then say hi. Let's go refresh it and say hi. It said hi, right? Now what did we learn? We added a button, we added an event handler using v on, and click is the event, and we are calling an event handler called say hi, and then we implemented that say hi as part of our Vue object, root object, by defining methods attribute, within that defining the function say hi. Now you can have multiple methods within the same Vue object, and you can call them at various places. Now this is one way of handling you event. Now you can have many other events, like say mouse over and other things. For example, if you want to do mouse over, we could add a mouse over event and then handle it. Before we go there, let's do what we call attribute handling, right? Attribute binding rather. That will make us our messaging much more easier. Let's say if you want to change something as soon as you click hi as part of the message. Let's say you want to make not only make it hi, but you also want to count how many highs have been told to you, right? Let's add that. Okay, let's define another data point called count, and it starts with 0, right? And we can say here number of replies, right, is count. Okay, now if I refresh it and click say hi, it's become high, but this is not increasing, this is 0. That's because on click of this we are not incremented the count. Let's do that also, right? I'll just put that, I'll just this dot count is equal to this dot count, or you can just increment it. Okay, now refresh it, say hi, say it became it's increasing. It's the same thing that we are doing. It's just we are adding another attribute called count and then incrementing and then referencing that here, right? Now let's say we want to show some message based on this count. For example, we don't want to show, for example, number of replies is equal to 0. We want to show no replies when number of replies is equal to 0, and if there is more than 1, then we'll show number of replies. Okay, now that is like how we want to show. We want to show p no replies yet, right? And if I refresh this, it will show both, but now I want to add like if else based on the count. Now in Vue you can have conditionals based on the attribute, right? And that's done by Vif. So let's add that. Let's add Vif, right? Let's Vif, and our condition is when count is equal to 0. We are going to show this, and else we are going to show this, right? Else, right? ELSE, right? And so now let's see. Okay, it showed no replies yet. Say hi, it just went, and we have the new update. So what's happening? When the count was 0, this was getting used. When the count became more than 0, then it got used. Now let's add one more condition just for fun. If you are very popular, you got many replies, let's say 5 replies, then we'll say you are very popular, right? I'm just saying number of replies, right? We could add that many other conditions, like v if, instead of that v else if, right? We can add v else if count is greater than, let's say 5, right? And okay, let's say 10, or let's say 5 just to test. And we can just put you are very popular, but from until 5 we just want to show number of replies, right? So let's see what happens now. Okay, no reply set, hi, hi, we are very popular, right? So once it reaches things, so this is how you can use conditional statements um, in the in the view. Now we might also want to do uh, some taking some inputs from the user. Let's say we just don't want to say hi. We want to know who is saying hi to us, right? That can be done by adding inputs, right? um, right, input type is equal to text. I'm just going to say your name, and if we look at it, okay, say hi, not hi, Tej says hi, right? But nothing is happening, we are not doing anything to this. Now we until now we saw one way of binding, right? We had data, and whenever the change happened in the data, it was going back to the HTML, but there was no other way to bind, like binding from actual HTML into data. Now that can be done by something called V model, right? Let's say we add a V model. This is the one we use to bind from the other way, or two-way binding to be precise. Then I'll call it visitor name, right? Now since visitor name is we're binding, we're going to add visitor name. By default will be empty, right? And then we can just show visitor name also here, right? Let's say we want to show visitor name, we can just show here. Let's see first of all whether this works, right? No, there is some error. Oh, okay. Now hello world, you say hi, oh sorry, let's do like Rajesh and then say hi. Now let's check in the view what is the value of this attribute, right? App dot that, let's run it. You can see it's been set to Rajesh, right? Now you could also add a thing here called who said hi to you, right? Let's say we can add P okay. Okay, here now it's already saying hi. I will remove it later, but let's go with it now. Rajesh, you can see Rajesh said hi. Now we don't want to do it as soon as we change it here. We don't want it to reflect directly, because we want to happen when we click on hi, and we want it to add how many people, right? So let's not do it here. Instead, let's add another a variable called visitors, okay, and define an array, right? And then when somebody clicks say hi, what I'll do is this dot visitors dot push, which I'm adding to the array, this dot visitor name, right? So I'm just going to do that and show how it looks, and then we'll do something with this visitors. Okay, spelling mistake, so let's fix it. Okay, refresh. Raj, say hi. Tej, say hi. Krishna, say hi. Right now if I go to my view and click on root, you can see that the visitors array has all the names Raj, Tej and Krishna, and the latest one is visitor name Krishna. I just want to make one more change. As soon as you enter and click say hi, I want to clear this so that people know that it's been used. So that you can do by resetting back to empty. This dot visitor name is equal to empty, right? So let's try once more. Okay, say Raj, hi, Tej, hi, Abdul says hi, and now if I click on root, you can see Raj, Tej and Abdul have said hi. It's not clearing, so here's the problem. I put comma instead of dot. Okay, now if you refresh it again, Raj, say hi, it goes away, right? But you can go back to your view and click on root. You can check it's still there as part of array. Okay, now if I do Tej, say hi, it works. Fatima works again. Okay, now we know that we got 3 replies. We have also captured their name. Let's show their name below, right? That can be just done by iterating over visitors and showing it, right? I mean, let's do that using what we call looping in Vue, right? That can be done using looping. So let's create an unordered list. Starts with n ul. Now we want to create as many LIs as there are names in the visitors, right? So let's do that by li, and then I'll just close the li. Within the li, I'll just do v for. This loops over something. What does it loop over? It should loop over visitors, right? It should loop over visitors. That is done using name in visitors. So it will loop over visitors, and each visitor's name will appear in the name one by one, and then that we want to print here, right? So if you put name here, this should actually work. Let's see. Okay, let's I'll just click on root here just to make sure that we are seeing everything. Raj, say hi. So it came down, as you can see. Rajat, Rani, Maya. You can see it's getting added to the below to the visitors, and as soon as it gets added to the visitors here, it gets added to the thing here. And let's say Rajesh, and as soon as Rajesh gets added, it gets added. Now let's add one more to see the other change as well. We'll make it Fatima, right? Say hi. So it added Fatima to it. It also became you're very popular. Now let's do one thing. We can just delete this from our data through some other process. Let's say you can see it got away from here too. This won't run, right? So that's how it's two-way, right? Now if you want this also to change according to the count in this, then we'll have to do not on the count plus, then we'll have to do on the visitor name plus. So instead of doing count, we could actually take a count of visitors and then do that as a thing, so that you don't have to depend on one and on not on the other. So for example, that you can do by removing the count here, and you can do something called computed. Okay, now we can say count, right, and make it a function, and what will it return? It will return the length of a array, right? Return this dot visitors dot. Okay, let's see. Now instead of actually having as attribute, we are computing it so that both are in sync, right? And I don't need this because we are just indirectly counting it using the names, right? Let's see this. Number of flippies, it's coming as count because I think count initially is 0. That happened because I think there was a bug here, so there is a spelling mistake in the length, so I fixed it. Now let's try again. Like you can add, okay, so I've also made it greater than 2. Let's just make it 3. Let's start Raj, Tej, Rahim, Shweta. So you can see that now it changed based on the computed count instead of actually we keeping the count. So that's how you can create the computed attributes, and this is going to be very useful if the value of attribute depends on multiple other attributes. You could use many other calculations here. So until now we saw how to create view object, how to set values, then how to bind using on bind the events using on, and then how to bind the two-way data by using model. Then we used if-else conditionals, then we used for loops. This completes the basics of Vue.js. In the next session we will look how to use some of the advanced features of Vue.js. Thank you so much for watching.